My top 10 supplies to pack for the hospital.
Hi everybody, it's Mena. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is the very first video that you're seeing of me, then welcome to my channel. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you didn't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometime. And today in this video, I'm going to go over the top 10 best supplies to have packed for the hospital for when you're going through chemo. So I went through chemo when I was 13 years old. I have like a full story about it, but I'm not going to link it down below because that's in parts. But I thought I'd make this video to be helpful for those who are going to be starting to go through chemo and they need to know what types of stuff to pack and what things to pack and how to be prepared to go to the hospital just in case you have to go to the hospital or you're scheduled to go to the hospital or stay in the hospital for quite a while. This is the stuff you need to pack for when you're going to the hospital. So it's super important and I wanted to make this video to be helpful and I hope you guys find it very helpful because this is all the supplies you're gonna need when you're staying at the hospital. So here we go.
Number 1.
So number 1 on my list would have to be pajamas with buttons. So this is super important. You should always have pajamas with buttons packed for when you're going through chemo just because as in case you have like a Broviac, which is a tube in your chest that goes through the main chamber of your heart and it gives you your meds, or if you have like a Metaport, so this is then they can draw like your blood through the tubes of your Metaport or your Broviac. And then they don't have to poke you all the time. So this is just will make it easy because then you don't have to like worry about your shirt getting lifted up because it's hard to wear a shirt when you have cords going through cords attached to you going through chemo because it kind of lifts your shirt up. But if you pack pajamas with buttons, it's going to be easier for your cords to go through. So just keep that in mind that when you're going to be packing pajamas going through chemo, you're going to probably need to pack pajamas with buttons so then your cords could go through the shirt easier.
Number 2.
Number 2, my list would have to be your favorite stuffed animal. So this is Julie. I've had her since I was 7 years old. She's like my favorite stuffed animal. I've had her for so long. And I used to bring her to my chemo trips all the time. And she was like a good company for me. And she's been in my life since I was 7. And I was bringing her to a lot of my chemo treatments as well as my other stuffed animal, which I'll get right now. I also would bring this bear home with me just because, not home, this bear to the hospital with me. Because she was a good comfort too, and I just find stuffed animals are a great comfort to hug for when you're scared, or they'll keep you company for when you're going through chemo, and it's just like they're just a good stress factor.
Number 3.
Number 3 on my list would have to be food. So I would bring my own food to the hospital. I wouldn't really eat any of the hospital food because I didn't like the taste of it, but it's just a good idea just in case you don't want to eat any of the food they have in the hospital because sometimes hospital food doesn't taste good. I don't know how it tastes now, but when I was a kid, they would have like already pre-made meals and they just didn't taste really good to me. So I would just get food from the grocery store and just bring it with me to the hospital.
Number 4.
Number 4 on my list would be extra blankets for the hospital. This is good because hospital rooms get quite cold. They'll heat up the sheets for you in the hospital, but it's just always good to be extra blankets because when you're going through chemo, you get very cold very easily. So in case you want to bring more blankets, just bring like 2 or 3 blankets when you go to the hospital because blankets will keep you warm when you're going through chemo. chemo, and it's just like a good way to sleep because the blankets they had at the hospital were very thin. They weren't very good at keeping warm, but they would warm the sheets up for when I was going through chemo and stuff. But you can also bring extra throw blankets too as well.
Number 5.
Number 5 on my list would have to be movies. Now, I'm not exactly sure what they have on TV, if they have like DVD players nowadays for hospital rooms, because when I was going through chemo, they only had VCRs and video cassettes, and that's what we would watch movies on when I was going through chemo, was VCRs and video cassettes. And they didn't have DVD players at the time, so I don't know what hospitals have nowadays for movies, because I haven't stayed in a hospital since I was 13 years old. So let me know if you guys have stayed in the hospital before. Let me know what they have for movies. Do they have like on demand? Do they have places on the where you can watch movies on the TV? I don't know what they have now for movies, so I'm not sure.
Number 6.
Number 6 on my list would have to be books. So books are a great distraction too, because they've got pictures in them, they're fun to read, and this is just an example of a book I have, which is Miss Spider's Tea Party, and you could look through the pictures and stuff, or if you're into chapter books, you can always read a chapter book. So reading is a great pastime for when you're stuck in the hospital.
Number 7.
Number 7 on my list would be any types of needle crafts, like knitting or crocheting, or maybe needlepoint or embroidery. You can bring any of those crafts to the hospital because those are a great way to pass the time of your stay in the hospital, because you don't want to just sit in the hospital room being bored. Just bring some knitting to do and stuff, and it'll keep you busy. Or if you crochet, you could bring some crocheting to do. I definitely brought some crocheting for when I was stuck in the hospital, and I actually tried to learn how to knit when I was in the hospital, and this nurse was supposed to teach me, and anytime she tried to teach me, I'd be sleeping or not feeling well. Or anytime I wanted to learn, she'd be so busy. So that's kind of what happened and stuff, was like anytime I wanted to learn how to knit, this nurse was planning on teaching me, but it didn't really work. It didn't really go well, but everybody has their things they have to do. So I learned from my mom's friend over the summer I finished chemo. So knitting is just a great way to pass the time. It'll calm your mind, it'll ease your stress, and it'll keep you busy.
Number 8.
Number 8 on my list would have to be arts and crafts. So some of the social workers at the hospital, when I was going to the hospital, had arts and crafts for people to do. The social workers will, like, at the hospital will like give you crafts to do, like making lanyards or doing whatever they have planned. Or you could just bring art activities that you can buy at the craft store and stuff, or you can bring some painting or drawing to do. I definitely brought a lot of drawing to do because I find that the drawing just really eased my mind, and I would draw pictures of myself being stuck in the hospital, and it kind of made me feel better. And the coloring, it was just a good distraction for me.
Number 9.
Number 9 on my list would have to be earplugs. This is probably important because just in case you're sleeping at night and then you're woken up by a TV being too loud, or you're woken up by your roommate or a crying baby, it's just a really good idea because the hospitals can be quite loud sometimes with all the babies in the hospital, all like the little kids in the hospital that are very scared, and then you kind of feel bad for them, but sometimes you do need your rest so you can get better. So in case you don't want to hear the loud noises, don't complain about it, just bring earplugs. I wish I brought earplugs when I was going through chemo because it was very difficult to sleep in the hospital. You know, because it was quite noisy with all the babies in the hospital or whoever I was staying in the same room as with. It's just sometimes I would have noisy roommates. But don't get me wrong, I liked all my hospital roommates. They were all very nice. I just had some that were kind of like noisy and stuff. And I have a story about one of my hospital roommates that I had in the hospital who was not very considerate because she kept making a lot of noise with the TV and her mom was talking on the phone. I'll link that down below if you didn't see.
Number 10.
Number 10 on my list would have to be a sleep mask. So a sleep mask is a great way to fall asleep in the hospital just because sometimes the nurses will accidentally turn on very bright lights in the hospital. I had a nurse one time accidentally turn on a super bright light and it kind of woke me up. So, and also it is really difficult to sleep in a hospital because it's very noisy. The nurses are coming in and out and in and out and in and out. So it's kind of like really hard and stuff, and then they wake you up kind of a little bit much, but they have to do it because it's part of their job. Oh, I forgot to mention, I have another story. I should have mentioned this in the last item I mentioned in my, in here. I have a full story about how I got stuck in a hospital room with two crying babies that kept me and my mom up all night, which I'll link down below if you didn't see. So a sleep mask is a good thing just because there's a lot of bright lights and it is, and like I said, it is very, very, very hard to sleep in a hospital just because it's very noisy. Nurses kind of like have to wake you up on and off and on and off and on and off and on and off. And, it's just really difficult to sleep in the hospital. Plus with all the babies crying, it's just very hard. So this is a good thing to bring to the hospital so then you can get as much sleep as you can, or if you're taking a nap during the day. So those are my top 10 supplies you should bring for the hospital for if you're going through chemo. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye.